Hi, this is John from Sharp Mountain Games, and today we're taking a look at Sentinel Comics, the role-playing game from Greater Than Games, and we'll do that right after the intro. So in talking with my friend Wes of DM Tales, he wants to do a lot of superhero gaming review in November, and we kind of decided, well, maybe we'd call it Supervember. And I don't know if that's original to us, and certainly anybody else is welcome to use that. And if you don't know Wes, I'll link his YouTube channel, DM Tales, in the link below. And I didn't want to steal his thunder or anything. I was just excited to get a little bit of early start. And I also want to encourage everybody, please consider doing some superhero gaming either in November or before November or whenever, but just it's so good to step out of the comfort zone, to step out of the dungeon and to try something different. I think you'll really like it, and there's just so many different systems out there, that you can celebrate Supervember whenever you want to. So let's start with some basics about Sentinel Comics, the role-playing game. This is a superhero role-playing game, and the book itself is a little over 400 pages, and as of the time I'm recording this, it's about $28 on Amazon. I think it's $28.11. I actually got it. There was a sale, and it was about $10 during Prime days, and I had some Discover bucks, so I basically got it for free. But I still think, $28 for, and it's one book. You don't need to buy any other books. It's not like there's a separate player's handbook, a separate Dungeon Master's guide, a separate monster manual, like a certain separate company does. So this is by Greater Than Games, which is an independent company. And they started out with a Sentinel Comics card game, collectible card game, I think a little bit like Magic. Now, I don't know how close the role-playing game is to the card game because I'm not familiar with it. But let's take a look inside the book, and then we'll come back and talk at the end to see whether this game might be for you or not. So here's the Sentinel Comics book, and you can see right on the cover that the artwork is very reminiscent of Bruce Timm from Batman the Animated Series, and then he did Superman the Animated Series, and I think there was Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Now, not all the artwork is in this kind of cartoony style, but there is a lot of it in here. So if you like that era of superhero art, you're great. Now, inside cover here, you can see they have all these beautiful comic books that never existed. And like I said, I'm not going to go through every page because it is a very big book. So the first chapter is, your standard intro stuff. And then chapter 2 gets into the rules and how to play the game. This is a very narrative system. Although you do have hit points to keep track of, and there are other things to keep track of, it's not as simulationist. In fact, it even says here, you're not counting spaces to see how far you can go. And then they give you some sample superheroes to take a look at. Now let's take a look at this one just really quickly. Hopefully we can see it in the camera. So for every dice roll, you pick one of your power dice, and maybe it's a D8 or a D10. You're going to roll that. Then you pick a quality. Okay, maybe I'm going with strength, close combat. I take the dice for my quality in close combat. And then whatever your current health dice is. It uses health dice, although there are hit points as well. Now, you can also then use, there's green powers, or they call them abilities. So that's like early in the fight. And then as you get damaged, or as the scene goes on, there's some yellow powers, and then there's some red powers. So you're rolling 3 dice, usually taking the middle value. However, some of the powers could let you use the maximum dice, or the maximum and the minimum for different combinations. And I think that's going to be a core point of this system. You could see for this particular hero, there's, 4 or 5 green powers, 3 yellow, 2 red. I think there's a lot to keep track of. If you like that level of crunchiness, great. If you don't, this might be a little too crunchy for you. Now, that doesn't mean there's not other good things in the book. I really think there are, but I just want to say that right off the bat. And then it gets into action scenes. Now, one good thing is that you'll have your villain, and your villain will have, full stats, almost like a hero. But they have lieutenants and minions who really are only represented by a dice. And then when you damage them, their dice, either they're out or their dice goes down a step. So if it's a D8, it goes to a D6. So they do try to simplify, keeping track of your minions or your mooks, all the guys with the funny sweatshirts on Batman. And there's a lot of examples in here, and the examples are laid out like a comic book panel. So they are easy to find and to follow and to give you an idea of what's going on. Now, when I said it's narrative, one of the things to think about is, first of all, you can alter the results. You can decide to succeed, but with a twist or some kind of setback. If you really wanted to succeed at this particular thing, that's fine. And the actions are very broken down into, are you going to attack? And you're not worried about, does fire damage do different damage than ice damage? It's really just damage. Are you overcoming? So that's basically a non-combat action that you're trying to get around. And, boost and hinder. Are you helping somebody? Or are you trying to hinder a villain? Are you going to just do full out straight defend? Now, you can also defend with a reaction. You're allowed to do that, but then you have to take a minor, what they call it, a twist or a minor hindrance. So if you're going to GM this, you really have to be prepared for coming up with these twists or having your players help you come up with these twists, because it's going to come up quite often. So let's move ahead now a little bit into character creation, which is the second chapter here. So where you choose a background, then a power source, were you trained, or were you an alien, or were you a mutant? Archetype, are you the detective? Are you the, a Superman kind of type? Personality. So all the steps are here, and you can play it almost like a mini game where you're rolling between the steps to see what comes next. Or you can, it even says you can, if you want to design a hero, you can just go through and use that more to your liking. You can just go through it the way you want and just pick and choose. Character creation takes a while, and there's a lot of writing, because you have to write down your red and your yellow powers and your green powers and things like that. So just be aware of that. Now, you might like that. You might say, well, it's kind of like a mini game, the way Traveler or the old FOSSA Star Trek was very much a mini game in character creation. So, some of this is going to depend on taste. Oh, and also I'll show you on the edge of the book, it's really convenient. The blue is character creation. So if I need that, I can just skip right to that section. And there are a lot of options. I mean, I think if you want to play an existing hero, you can probably make it. And then there's a chapter on game mastering, just to give you some hints and tips about how to run. And it's pretty long too. That's the orange section. And then there's one called the bullpen, which is the next one, which talks about creating villains and things like that. And it's very, very comic book based. So you might say, well, how do you improve? After you have played a few sessions, those are like issues. And then the 6 issues could get collected into like a 6-issue collection, like a graphic novel. And you don't really improve like getting more hit points and stuff. The way you improve is you could switch out your powers or change some things. And then we get into, there's a couple of intro adventures in here. And there are a couple of teams that you can use. And a lot of these superheroes, they're their own thing because they're not Marvel or DC, but it would be very easy. For example, this legacy character is very much could be a Supergirl or Superman when he was young. There's a character called Wraith who's really could easily be reskinned as Batman without any big changes. You can see this bunker guy, is a lot like Iron Man. So they do give you some starting heroes, and they give you 2 teams. One which is more like the Justice League or the Avengers, and this team Daybreak, which would probably be more maybe like the X-Men or the New Mutants or the Teen Titans, a little lower powered, not especially lower powered, but more of a younger superhero group. And then they give you a whole bunch of villains. And as I said, this would be really good, even if you don't want to play this system. If it's, like I said, I think it's a little crunchy. It may not be to everybody's taste. Not every system is for every person. That's okay. But they give you a lot of villains that you easily could mine. And then also towards the end, let me skip ahead, they give you some locations. Freedom Plaza, a Mars base, a kind of an inner magma world, I guess like the Mole Man lived in, and things like that. So that's our look at the book. So let's summarize and end with, should you buy the game? If you want a very narrative-based superhero game that also gives some control to the players where they can succeed with a twist, this might be for you. However, just be aware, there's a lot of crunch and a lot of descriptive kind of abilities or feats that come along with every hero. So if that's something you really like and your group likes very crunchy characters, this might be for you. Now, maybe that system-wise it's not for you, but I still think it's a very nice book. The artwork is very nice. There's a lot of ideas that you could mine for homebrew, or perhaps you just want the adventures or the heroes and villains they have there. If you want to steal those for your own home game or for a different system that you're running, then certainly you could consider it. And also if you want to support an independent RPG. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my experience. I ran 2 solo combats. One I tried to run from the book and use like a small team of heroes, and it was overwhelming. Because for each hero, there's so many different abilities. You have to build your 3 dice for your powers and qualities, and then the health die, and then you have to see which ability you're using, and it was too much. I actually didn't quite make it through that solo session. And then I said, well, I'm going to pare it down. I'm going to take one of the heroes who's a lot like Batman, and then maybe give him a Robin, but using the sidekick rules, and try that. Now, that went a lot better, but again, it was a bit too crunchy for me. So that's just my perspective. Not every game is for every person. So just keep all that in mind when you're thinking about it, whether you want it. If you don't want quite all that crunchiness, or you need a quicker character creation, you might need to look elsewhere. But as I said, I still think overall it's a very nice book. I certainly see myself going back to it, maybe mining it for ideas. So that's all I've got for today. Please like and subscribe if you would, and stick around to see what else Sharp Mountain Games has to offer. It'll only take a second. So thanks very much, and see you next time. So here at Sharp Mountain Games, we have a few adventures in print, such as the Star Mermaid, the Dwarven Pickup Truck, and the Sky Tree, and you can check those out at Amazon, Lulu, and drivethrurpg. Also over on drivethrurpg, we have a number of other adventures and character classes, and even some stock art. On Roll20, we have some map packs and character cards, so you can check those out if you're interested. And as always, please like and subscribe, and we hope to see you again real soon.